Hi, my name is Alex Ging, and I'm making this video to go over recruitment and retention with a focus on Guelph Quidditch. I decided to focus on Guelph Quidditch for a couple of reasons, but over the past couple of years, they've done a pretty good job of training and introducing new players to the sport, keeping them on season after season, and then also having people who have stayed in the community to either join other teams or form their own teams or volunteer with Quidditch Canada. So I thought there's something to learn from what they are doing. So I spoke with Bethan and Michael. They both have a number of years of experience with Guelph Quidditch, and I included in brackets different positions that they've held in the Guelph Quidditch Club over the years, just so you can kind of see what their position was and how it's changed. But in talking to them about leadership of the team, they highlighted that the admin roles of president, vice president, and having 5 captains seems to be a pretty good leadership mix that's worked for them. Over the years, they've had other positions such as finance, recruitment, tournament directors, social media, and fundraising, but they found that this wasn't the most efficient. When you have all these different positions, they found that people were actually waiting on others to get their work done, and then they kind of got in this position where they're stuck and nothing's getting done and everyone's just waiting on everyone else. So having a president and a vice president who are really responsible for making sure that things get done and then delegating responsibilities as they come up has worked really well for them. So they emphasize that you want people who want to do the position, that are passionate about the team. You're not going to force people into these roles, but it's hard to identify, but mainly just asking people who's interested, having people apply, and then from there filling leadership positions as they come up. So an overview. I'm referring to the Guelph University Quidditch Club. Now this club does compete as 2 separate teams in Quidditch Canada, so you may have seen them as the Guelph team and the Rayal City team. However, they say that that's the only difference. So they practice together, they do social events together. It's only when they're competing that they are represented as 2 separate teams. They try not to push that A-B team mentality in their group. They try to identify all as one unit, and that can help people feel good about, training and bringing up people in their club and not focusing on competing or that one is better than the other. Having 2 teams has allowed their club to grow and flourish over the years. They did mention that, I don't know if it was the first year or one of the early years, they didn't quite have enough for 2 full teams. So on the field, you can have up to 21 players on the field or on the team. And one year, I think they had about 35. So that was a little tight because obviously some people may get injured. They might not be available to come to tournaments. And so that wasn't quite the numbers that they wanted. But that over the years, they've been able to grow the club. And so if you are trying to have multiple teams like this, that might be something that you run into, but just over time and keeping working at it brings in more people to the club. Starting the season strong. Over the summer, prior to classes even starting, leadership will reach out to existing players at the end of July, beginning of August to poll who is interested in coming back and find out if anyone is on the fence. So very quickly, you'll find out if people are not responding. That's a pretty good indicator that they're not interested. And if someone is on the fence, this is the chance to reach out and find out what their concerns are. Is it self-doubt? Are they having problems with other players? Is there something going on that you can resolve before September starts? So this can also help the team identify how many people they're going to need to recruit to replace anyone that they're losing. Something that they really take advantage of is support from their school. It's not always up to a team on how supportive their school will be, but something that they really focus on is O Week. So this is orientation week. This is in September, and it's a chance for new students to get an idea of what clubs and teams that they can join. So Quidditch is listed in the O Week guide. There's an orientation week festival, so there's a lot of booths, and they actually have an area where they can do a game of Quidditch with about 20 of their players. So the best way to teach people Quidditch and get people interested is to have them see a game. So this gives them a chance to quickly put on a game. People passing by can get an idea of what Quidditch is, and then it's followed by an interactive non-contact demo. Anyone walking by can just join in, like a little practice. And while this demo is happening, they have a table at the side of the field with information and volunteers who can answer questions as people are walking by and try and pull them in to participate. So the table with information, they always say that they have something that people can take pictures of with tryout dates and the club name, so that if people decide later to look it up more, they have something to search. So the volunteers actually try to encourage students that they talk to put the tryout dates in their phone. So if someone comes up to the table and they're interested in the team or learning about more, if you encourage them to put the tryout dates and times in their calendar app on their phone, you have a better chance of getting them to come back or look it up later. Something else that they do is cannon painting. So this is something that Guelph has. They have these cannons that school groups can paint, and they put Quidditch on it and tryout information as well. So they have a good relationship with their school. Obviously, this is not entirely on control of Quidditch teams if your school is not supportive of you, but the first thing would be to reach out to a school, make sure that they at least know that your school group exists, and see what kind of connection that you can grow from there. They did mention that they put flyers around the campus, and flyers have to be approved by the school. So this is something that you have to have approved ahead of time, so that does require some planning. You can't just print them out and stick them up that same day. They have social media posts and event pages in advance for tryouts. So before O Week even happens, this information is online, and then if someone runs into the team at O Week, they can then search this stuff and find it later. They also have been lucky to have some alumni involvement. So they have had people who have been on the team and graduated and come back to offer to help with events. They mentioned someone who helped create a promo video and pictures for social media. So having alumni involved and there to help is really great. So a big part of recruitment is tryouts. So this is in September. I think they said it's about the second week of September, and they have 3 or 4 tryouts. So they're trying to encourage students to come to one of these. Often it's a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then a weekend tryout, and this is a chance for people to join the team. And when people approach them at that O Week or have questions about, I don't have a background in Quidditch, or I don't have as much of a background in athletics, they're still encouraging people to come. They're not discouraging them, but they are answering questions on what they can expect. And this way of having multiple days, if someone has a class, there's really no excuse. It's very unlikely that someone's not going to be available for all 4 of these, so you have the best chance of getting people to come out and give it a shot. As I said, they list the tryout dates in advance online, at the information booth, on flyers, everywhere that they possibly can, and encourage people to come out. During the winter, a lot of Quidditch teams do seem to have a bit of a slump. It's hard to keep people interested, especially if it's hard to book a field or get a practice space. And Guelph said that they also do experience a bit of a slump, but they have a couple things to help them. So from January to April, they do have use of an indoor field house. It's been pretty competitive with other school teams to get use of the field. So they had it at 9 p.m., I think from 9 to 11 on Tuesdays. So this was not their ideal time. People are tired from classes, but it gave them a chance to practice on an actual field. So again, this is a shout out to how well they've been able to communicate and stay in touch with their athletics department, but that they have use of this. There also are not as many tournaments in the winter. This is often because teams, it costs money to rent indoor fields, but something that they've done instead of that is more social events. So an event that they had was a January birthday party. Really just an excuse for a social, but it's a fun theme. Another thing that they had was a separate guys and girls night. So because they have a club and there's so many people in it, this is a chance to break off into smaller groups, and then the girls go and have a social night and the guys go and have a social night. Your club might not want to separate by gender like that, but you could break it off into beaters or chasers or something else just to get into a smaller, more intimate group of people for a social event. Another thing they do is movie nights. This has literally nothing to do with Quidditch, but they will invite people to go to the movies, and then they can all go as a group, anyone who's interested. And the other thing is an end of season party. So when you buy a Quidditch Canada membership, you're actually covered for a full year. You can play in the summer, and sometimes we will do fantasy tournaments, or teams will continue to do practices. However, a lot of schools, because they're focusing on the school year, the season is seen as ending in April. So once nationals has happened, that's kind of the signifier of the end of the season. So the team tries to go to nationals, but they do usually like to have an end of season party just to celebrate the past year and how they've been, and to kind of say goodbye to people before they head off for work or maybe even graduation. The summer. So throughout the year, they have a Facebook group that they stay in contact with their teams and alumni and share information. Something that they have that not all teams have, both Michael and Bethan have been involved in a Guelph Kids Quidditch group. So sometimes they will post volunteer postings, and that gives people a chance to sign up and come out for a day of Quidditch or help out with something. They'll also post about social events or scrimmages, so ways to keep in contact with people who are also in town. And then if there's a fantasy tournament, they might use this group to coordinate a carpool or getting people to the fantasy tournament. So they have a way for the team to stay in contact on the off season, but obviously the focus for them is on the school year, not so much on the summer season. So this is the canon that Guelph was talking about. This has absolutely nothing to do with playing Quidditch. This is more about school spirit and team bonding. So really big and easy to read. It says Quidditch. It has their tryout information, and it's in the school colors. So this is now an extension of school pride, is being involved in Quidditch, and it's something easily searchable and something that the team probably has fun putting together. But if someone sees this and wonders what this is, searches Guelph Quidditch, it can take them to their social media page. So if you feel that your demographic is not on Facebook, definitely use a different social media platform, but you can create a page for your team on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be all that active, but if it has information on here on how they can get in contact with you, or if they can just kind of creep your profile and see what exactly is this Quidditch team. So on here they have pictures of the team, and on the events page they have a bunch of past events here, and they would have upcoming events if that was happening, but they have the tryouts and they also just have other types of events. So this is really good for having someone easily look up when things are happening for your team. And I find not everyone will RSVP on Facebook, so don't get discouraged by low numbers, but this is just a place where it can have a lot of information about the upcoming events. When I searched their team name, I also found this page. So this is not run by them, this is run by their athletics. And it looks like you wouldn't even have to update this every year, it just is a good landing page. So if someone is looking for a sports team to get involved with, they might stumble across Quidditch this way. If they have heard about Quidditch and they're searching it, Google will also take you here. So it has pictures of people playing Quidditch, which is good, kind of showing people that it's a real thing, a description of what it is, information on tryouts. This links to their Facebook page, which is really good because often you will not have access to edit a page like this. You'll have to jump through hoops to get the school to do it. So you want to link to somewhere where you actually can quickly update on the fly if tryout information changes. It has contact information of leaders of the team, has information on fees. I like that they have this breakdown, so if someone's newer, they might not be yet willing to put in a lot of money for a fee, but there's a small fee that they can get involved in practices. And then the email address, so that someone can just directly reach out to the team if they have questions. This can also be used by media. So if there's a school newspaper or a local media outlet, they might reach out to you using this kind of information. And I thought it was kind of cool at the bottom. They have like little testimonials from people who participated. This page also has a Q&A section. So these are the questions we all get 100 times. So they have some questions that if someone's curious about Quidditch or thinking of coming to tryouts, they might be able to answer some of their own questions here. But just to give people a general idea of what this game is and what would happen if they join the team, what can they expect. The final takeaway I got from talking to them is that there is a lot of work on the president to communicate with school athletics. So for any team out there, if you don't already have a relationship with your athletics department, or if you're not athletics, maybe your school clubs, try and make sure that they at least know that your group exists, and then from there try and build. Your first meeting with them, they're not necessarily going to give you grants and practice space and storage, but building that relationship can really have a big impact on your team. The more you put your team out there, the more people learn about your club and want to get involved. They said with the O Week that everything they can do to get the name of Quidditch in front of people, they're doing it. They have flyers, they have demos, they're doing all sorts of things. You're not going to be found unless you put yourself out there. So luckily, if you have a lot of people on your team, or you can at least divide and conquer some of the work, that makes it not as hard on just one person to be responsible for recruiting everyone. It takes time. Guelph was not started with both the Guelph and Rayal City teams. They've grown to the size over the years, so don't get discouraged if you're not immediately seeing results. Having more than one leader on the team can really help. Like I said before, they have a president, vice president, and then the captains. That might not be a structure that you want for your team, but it's something that works for them, and it's allowed them to delegate the responsibilities so that if one person is busy or sick, the whole team doesn't fall apart because there's no one else to lead. Have fun and connect with players off the field. This is something that really came up, that the Guelph Quidditch Club is not just focused on practicing and playing Quidditch, that there's a lot of social outside of it, and that a lot of their players actually really enjoy spending time together. And I think that bond really helps them with their O Week event, that they have so many people signing up to volunteer and help because they care about the club and they also care about the team. So people are coming out because they really believe in the team and they want to help, not just out of a sense of that I have to because I'm being told to. And finally, plan recruitment and retention in advance. The summer is not a time to take off. If you're a leadership of a team, you should be already planning what you're going to do to recruit and retain people, what resources you have at your school, and get in contact with people on your team to find out what you can do to improve the team for the next season. If you plan in advance, you have a much better chance of recruiting the people that you need, because if it's the week of a tournament and you're realizing that your roster does not have enough people, it's way too late to recruit people. So I hope this helped. I really think that the Guelph Quidditch Club has done a really great job over the years of fostering Quidditch players and being a great part of our community, and I hope that we can all learn something from them.